All right. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Just gonna get settled in here for a second, and we'll get started in like a minute. Hopefully everyone's doing well. It's been days of abundance recently, so feeling really appreciative, grateful, what have you. Can I get a little sound check though before I get started on anything? I've got a little bit different of a setup today. I'm gonna try to run with the chat box on the window over here. Let's see how that goes. I'm tired of staring at my right monitor when I'm streaming, and then 2 hours later my neck has a crink in it. So we're gonna try this. All right, my friends. So yeah, we're just gonna settle in here for a second. We are going to do a deep dive on Bitcoin here momentarily. Then we will, work our way down into the lower time frames and do alts. Normally, I'm not so interested in alts. Very, very interested in alts these days. So we're gonna definitely do a bit of a dive into that. A couple of prefaces before we get started. The puppy's asleep next to me. If he wakes up and makes noise, we'll just power through it. Huge shout out to Coinbase for sponsoring all my content and stuff now these days. Really appreciative to them. I'm really excited personally about their big announcement that they shared with us that perps are live. It's definitely in beta stage, and I started testing it. It's clearly very early, but I'm very optimistic about what that's going to be like as a product for us in the future. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me with my intro. I guess let's go ahead and get into a little bit of Bitcoin yap. If you have any questions, topics, comments, anything along the way, just throw it in the chat, and I'll always do my best to cover it. Let's try to keep the altcoin tickers for the altcoin section after I'm done with Bitcoin. So yeah, let's go ahead and lock into a little bit of Bitcoin yap for like 15-20 minutes. I'm going to kind of ignore chat and see where it takes us. And yes, I am caffeinated today, so it should be a good one. I think got kind of a low viewer count today, and only 90 people in here. Last stream we had like 200. Maybe we'll have to get a little crazy with it today, since half the people aren't here that normally would be. All right, press like for me. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and focus up, get into some stuff here. So let's do Bitcoin top to bottom. Starting off with the macro conversation. Very, very optimistic about everything. The arguments that I've been making throughout the whole year and, past several years now has been, we're trend respecters, number one. So, if the trend is up, we want to be trend respecters. Number two was around the whole seasonality thing. And that looks like that's played out now at this point. So what you care about now is, we are in a massive uptrend, and we have now broken out of this multi-month, I think it's like 8.5 month range roughly. Got a decent impulse outside of that. 1 second, hold on. Thought I had a burp coming and I didn't. All right, so now that we've broken out of this 8-month range and we've got a decent impulse above 110K up to our local resistance at 120, here's what matters, right? In order to see this trade higher, which is what all of us are praying for, unless you're sidelined. I will cover some sideline plans later on too. Honestly, all my plans are going to be contingent upon if you're, already positioned or not. But the main idea is that when you see an impulse outside of a range, you want to see the next range get built and held, right? So this impulse candle needs to hold a support while we build out this local range. If you look at any trend that we've ever had, it looks like some version of this where you have a range, you break out of the range and you hold there, and then you can mark up from there. You break out, you hold, and then you mark up again. So that is what we are hoping for right now. If bulls can continue to hold here, which I do expect that they will be able to continue to hold the 115K area, then it makes us have a pretty high likelihood of trading up. So that is my expectancy. I'm definitely positioned long across the board on everything, and I'm totally down to talk in detail about that, but just keeping it big picture focused right now. Everything looks fucking fantastic on high time frame. You're going to have a couple of local resistances along the way, but I think once we break out of this range, the next move will be in the direction of 150K. And that is more or less it for the macro synopsis, right? I can look at a couple other charts here in a second to maybe weave in a few more pieces of detail, right? You know, I think it is consensus that we are late stage, which makes me maybe think that we are less likely to be such a late point in the cycle. But you know, if you look at from the origin of the trend, we are very extended from value at this point, and you can't exist in a period where you are extended from value forever. At a certain point, price and value have to converge. And I don't think that you know is a warning sign for us just now, but in the back of my mind, big picture, you know, I really feel like we're set for another substantial leg up, and then that's when, you know, I've had basically the same views the whole way through. Another leg up is the first time where I'm going to question whether the trend has more juice in it left or not. When we look at everything big picture, the stars are definitely aligning for us to trade up. All the, you know, current administration type stuff, right? I mean, that bodes so well for us. You know, I'm speaking outside my wheelhouse, but a thought that I had recently was it's crazy how you had the, you know, administration changeover, and then just all this legislation just started piling through a couple months after that. And it tells me that we were ready to send all that stuff the whole way through. They just didn't want to, you know, go up against the Dems, so they chose to just sit on all their potential legislation. So it's just crazy to me that everything was pretty much ready to go, and you know, you just didn't have a stamp of approval from the government, so none of it went live, and now it's all going live. So yeah, hopefully everyone's doing well. I'm down to if you have any questions about the macro outlook, hit me. Let me move over to this really quickly. I mean, these are the main levels that we're operating off of, so we're clear, right? There aren't really any significant supports to really fuck with, right? Your only support that has any relevance is going to be 115. Beyond that, if you lose 115, I'm not really going to be that bullish. So we want to see 115 continue to hold. I think it's a matter of time before 120 gets broken as resistance, and you know, probably flips short term into support, and then the move up towards 150k. That's my views. Okay, let me kind of interesting that you guys can see the chat the way that I do. Doc made me famous. That's crazy. I know exactly who you are, even though you have a different name. Thanks, Cryptoski. We'll look at alts. We will look at alts eventually. Don't sweat it. Pendle is on the top of my list, or one of the top lists, so we'll cover it. What do you mean by singles? So when you have a 30-minute time frame, any sort of candle that has an absence of two-way trade, so any of your impulse candles like this or like this, it's specific to the 30-minute time frame. This would be considered a single print. So it's showing us the initiation from buyers. If buyers are really strong coming through this area, it means that it's got to hold a support moving forward. It's a pretty standard principle I've traded off for a long time now. We can look at ETH and stuff later on. Let me get through Bitcoin first. Gun to head breakout or back to range low? Definitely breakout. Definitely feeling optimistic about things. If we lose 115, I'll change my tune. But it's not like I'm long from 120k, right? I'm long from a lot lower, so you know we've got breathing room. If we lose this region that's highlighted right here, it means I'm probably wrong in the short term. It doesn't mean that I'm long on the long term. I think that it's really hard for me to imagine a reality where Bitcoin doesn't resolve higher this year, right? And I've been saying that all year long. I've been saying that for years and years, right? We expect this shit to just keep going up. There's no reason to think otherwise, in my opinion. Big volatility on Bitcoin? Not really. I mean, I wouldn't say so, brother. Bitcoin volatility is just doing this. Bitcoin volatility has been doing this for years, but really this year in particular, I think the volatility dropped off substantially. ETH topping, don't be thinking about anything topping, guys. Come on. It's not really useful for you to think about things topping. Do you expect BTC dominance to make a new all-time high? Probably, but I don't care about BTC dom. I think that's a stupid metric, guys. Time to close the longs. Do we need to get to single print? What does this say? Do we need to get all the single prints or just a few of them? We don't need any of them. I don't know what you mean by that, right? Ideally, this is textbook support, but I don't even want to see us trade into this area, right? I want to see us continue to hold above it. Your inability to trade in support tells you that you are even more bullish, right? Feet picks and Paragon confirmed. I agree. It does feel like we're going to break out. You don't take profit because you are thinking it's topped out and stuff, right? None of you guys are going to be able to sell the tops. If you bought something and it went up, you can sell it and you take profit. But I'm telling you not to worry about tops because it's just a futile effort, right? If you want to focus on tops, or bottoms, just focus on bottoms. Tops are one of the most useless things. They're not really gonna, the only use case for that, right, is you sell and you lock in your profits, but you sell on the way up. Sell into strength or you're forced to sell into weakness. We're in a bull market, we're in an uptrend, and every day I go on streams and post things on Twitter and people are always talking about what the top this, the top that. It's just, it's not a useful frame of mind to be sitting in, guys. You should just like buy the dip. That's the only thing you should be thinking about. Like, when can I buy? All right, let's get back into a little bit of Bitcoin yap. So the higher time frame, pretty straightforward. I do think it's just a matter of time while we continue to build out this range that we're going to break out of it. Let us go over to, I don't really care too much about the VWAPage, so I'm just going to skip over that section today. If we look at medium time frame, this is the range that we're building out, like I just highlighted. Range high is 119.2, range low is 116.8, give or take. This is the value that we're building out. Any sort of moves down into these lows, you should expect to get bought. If we actually start to lose this 115.2 kind of region, then, just simple logic. As long as we're above this, bullish. If we're below this, you want to be bearish or more defensive, certainly with your positioning. I don't know if we want to talk about positioning now or later, but, I'm obviously, you guys can see everything that I'm long. So I guess I don't really need to elaborate on it too much. As far as medium time frame goes, I do not know why this one is drawn as red right now. That is, for some reason, I'm sure a lot of you guys are running into this too. TradingView has been buggy as shit recently with their like VWAPs and stuff. I know at least one of you guys in the chat has pulled up an anchored VWAP and had it just have all the standard deviation bands on, and you wanted to end it all in Minecraft. As far as I'm concerned, though, on the median time frame chart, right, very, very optimistic. There is zero reason to be bearish on this chart, right? Everything that you see on this screen in front of you says buy the dip if you were, lucky enough to have it. Realistically, the two good dip opportunities have probably come and gone. The dip opportunity that came real recently, I posted about this. I thought this was funny. We could highlight this really quickly. Off the open, this guy, it's really hard to say if he either fat fingered this order or he thought if he sold really aggressively that he could push price down or something. Not really sure what he was thinking, but, he opened up quite a large short, which was, over 1% of total open interest in one candle. He opened it up, and price immediately mean reverted on him, and then he puked. And this is just a classic. You don't see this every day, so I saw this last night and definitely got a good laugh out of it. Pretty funny how it's not that uncommon that, look at this. I mean, this guy's mistake created the momentum to go back the other way in the range, right? If this is the range low area, range high is up here. This guy's mistake literally helped create the momentum for us to go back to the range high. So, just, a hilarious lesson, but still a lesson nonetheless, right? The idea that if you're longing into the range highs and shorting into the range lows, even if you're a big boy, it's still not going to be fun for you, right? It's going to be an unpleasant experience. You need to learn to long, at the lows and sell at the highs, and not do the opposite. Like your monkey brain tells you to, oh, you need to buy right now, when in reality, the opportunity to buy came in the New York puke, right? I mean, buying now is pretty dog shit compared to an hour ago or whatever, right? Okay. I don't have a ton else to say on Bitcoin, right? Because we're just kind of relaying the same plans that we've had for a long time. Everything looks really good. One thing I will say, I've got a high time frame bearish kind of belief that you look at this with large cap things like Bitcoin. You see the same thing with memes. You always need a what's next. What's next for Bitcoin? What's next for crypto? Right now, the driving force for Bitcoin is the ETF accumulation and the treasury company accumulation, right? The only thing that we really have left going for us is the strategic reserves in the future. So honestly, I've been in crypto for a long time now, and we've always talked about, let's wait for the suit adoption, right? And everybody's been patiently waiting for that, and we knew suit adoption would carry our assets up, right? Well, here we are, Bitcoin 119K, suit adoption's here. I'm not trying to be one of those guys that made it and then says there's never going to be another cycle, but my honest belief is that this is probably the last adoption wave cycle that crypto really experiences, because after this risk wave, crypto will just be a part of financial markets, just like any of the other asset classes or commodities or anything, right? So I'm really curious to see what people's optimistic views for Bitcoin and crypto are for the next decade following this run that we're on right now. Yeah, I know that somebody's going to come up with new technology on chain, and they'll keep innovating on chain and stuff, but clearly the growth and adoption wave is happening right now. So I wonder what could possibly be next. All right, let me scroll back in chat and see what's up with the boys real quick. After we finish up Bitcoin here, we will move over into alts shortly. Watch the order flow video was great. Thanks, brother. Could you please elaborate on the exhaustion absorption concept and the trigger of the trade? I don't really want to do that right now, man. It's just not the time to do order flow education like that. If you want the answer right now, you can join Paragon and watch the full length version that was like 25 minutes where I explain everything. Those setups are things I've been teaching for a long time. That's the first time I did some public education on it, but we've been teaching that stuff forever. All right, not necessarily too relevant to Bitcoin, but the NASDAQ has been the biggest lockout rally. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have NASDAQ and S&P exposure, so I look at these things and I go, hell yeah, brother. These things look insane. The NASDAQ and the S&P were at all-time highs yesterday. Love to see that. Same thing with my silver's looking real good too. So, I normally focus on crypto and don't really ever talk about my boomer stuff, but, the boomers are doing well and they're paving the way for crypto to do well. So, got no complaints from me on that front. What do you recommend after selling altcoins and wanting to move money somewhere secure, crypto diversify a little bit, maybe NASDAQ or gold? Perfect segue. If you're a crypto native, your goal, in my opinion, should be to almost treat Bitcoin like your stable coin and you're trying to accumulate more Bitcoin, right? When you're at that point where you maybe want to move a little bit away from being entirely crypto backed, that's the show that I just gave you. The majority of my legacy exposure is in the S&P, the NASDAQ, and in silver. Maybe I would do things differently and pick gold instead of silver, but I started building on my silver exposure a very long time ago and I just kept doing it. And yeah, I think gold might have actually outperformed silver. I'm not super sure. Either way, these aren't vehicles that I put money in to grow. I put money in something like the S&P to just keep pace. It's an asset that I can put extra money in and know that it will probably beat inflation and appreciate in that regard. And it's pretty low volatility, and I can just sleep really comfortably at night having exposure in those assets. So Bitcoin is definitely my biggest holding out of my entire port, but as time goes on, I have slowly ramped up my legacy stuff. It's just a way to live your life more comfortably, guys. I know if you're a crypto person, you think why would you ever want to buy something that's going to underperform? Well, when you make money and start to seek actual diversification, not memeification, where I'm gonna put my money into 5 different altcoins that are gonna all go down 99% together, right? You got to break into other asset classes to have diversification, right? TradFi markets, real estate, commodities. It's more or less what your options are. What up, Charlie? What up, guys? Fat finger sell on Coinbase. Yeah, I saw that as well. Chat on screen. Yeah, so Doc, you can just pop out the chat. I was just experimenting with it today. Honestly, like, I figured it might be slightly better for the audience, but I'm mostly doing it just to have my chat all in one monitor because I hate looking over at my other monitor to read chat. This monitor is in front of me perfectly. This is the monitor I'm supposed to look at all day. I'm not supposed to look at my right monitor. That's just for quick moments. All right, let me catch up with chat, and then we'll move on into alts here probably pretty soon. This is the cycle to actually hold Bitcoin. Always has been. It always has been. Many of the people, you know, for such a long time, it was common sentiment in our space that, like, oh, I can't buy Bitcoin or I can't hold Bitcoin because it's going to underperform. I really think that if you're a crypto native, you should replace stablecoins from your mind, and Bitcoin is your new stablecoin. You move into alts to accumulate more Bitcoin, just like you would accumulate more stables. And when it's time to de-risk, you sell your alts into Bitcoin. When it's really time to shit your pants de-risk, you sell some of your Bitcoin into stables if you want, right? But the idea is, I mean, it's so obvious for me to say the Bitcoin stuff now, but if you followed for a long time, this isn't new. You know, the entire run, my portfolio was built around Bitcoin and Solana, and it's not really as heavily in Solana these days as it was because it doesn't make sense anymore. But yeah, it's just reframe your mind for Bitcoin to be your new stablecoins in your port, and maybe that'll help a lot of you guys. People think like, oh, I'm not a millionaire. I only have $10,000. I shouldn't ever try to buy Bitcoin. There's no point. And it's like, please reassess that. I think that even if you don't have plethoras of money, that accumulating whatever Bitcoin you can is wise. And it's easy for me to say that now at 119K, but this isn't new shit for us, right? I've been saying this forever. All right, let me try to catch up with the rest of the chat and we'll move on. Been losing from previous days. Can you tell me what kind of environment we are in, entire day perspective? What do you mean? Been losing from previous 2 days. What kind of environment are we in? Okay, well, on a macro standpoint, we're in an uptrend, right? So macro uptrend, medium time frame, decent momentum, but building a consolidation range before continuation. So when you're trading inside this range, you want to trade a bullish range, right? I don't have any interest in shorting. You just buy and sell when it goes up, right? I think that we are on the precipice of breaking out of this range and going right back into momentum continuation. So we are in one of the rare market regimes where Bitcoin actually should have a lot of momentum on the high time frame, right? The overwhelming majority of time in markets is chop, right? But then you get small windows of just insane momentum, and I think that's where we're at right now. I think we should be able to trade up and spark momentum. Again, if we lose this area, then I'm probably wrong. You know, I could make the argument that, you know, this is a good impulse and this is a much weaker impulse than this one. So if we don't get a strong impulse this time, if this impulse that we get next is even weaker than this one, then the trend is over. And you could see like a local top at 127 or something, and then a trade a lot lower. Just throwing out some theoretics here. What if we get another huge unwind leading to another bear market? Well, then we get another huge unwind. What do you want me to say to that, you know? I don't have control over the outcomes of any of my bets. I just make bets that I think are smart. And I've been rewarded massively for betting on this uptrend, and I'm going to continue to do so. Eventually, one day, you know, I talked about this in the Paragon group recently, actually a few different times. On high time frame, even with low time frame, but specifically with high time frame, I'm like on a insane heater, where I haven't really missed on high time frame in a while. What's gonna happen one day is I am gonna miss, and it's gonna be a big loss, and it just is what it is. The gains that I'm making before that loss comes are gonna offset it, right? You know, I'm not trying. I'm trying not to be euphoric about what's happened recently. I don't actually even know what my P&L looks like, but I know I'm up a lot the past couple of months, like a lot. So eventually I'm gonna lose a good chunk, and it is what it is. You know, if we were to just yeet down, I'm gonna go into drawdown. It is what it is. But I'm not, you know, I'm not scared. Not scared at all. It's just, you know, I've traded for so long that the uncertainty of how the outcome plays out, it doesn't really bother me that much. And I know that the expected value is favorable from my side. What about the tokenization? Yeah, so the suits are going to try to tokenize everything. I don't really know that bodes super well for us in any way. Sure, maybe it'll be a tradable narrative or something, who knows. We'll have to be patient with that, Jonathan. Maybe the unwinding of the treasury companies. Yeah, eventually, guys, eventually somebody's going to try to structure one of these treasury company products, and they're not going to do it right, and they're going to fuck up. But, you know, it's not worth me caring that much about if the treasury companies blow up in the future, because I know in the short term they're going to make us go up. So that's all I care about. I care about, I'm short-sighted in that way, right? I care about price appreciation in the now, because that's how I profit, that's how I benefit. I'm confident that I'll defend myself if we do go into a bear market eventually, which we will one day go into a bear market. But it's crazy to me that there's every stream I do, every tweet that I'm doing, every time I'm looking at my mutuals comments and stuff, there's a lot of pessimism and bearishness, guys. I'm telling you, honestly, the pessimism that I see in the comments and stuff actually makes me a little bit more optimistic about things, if I'm being super honest, right? Anytime when I pitch like a bull narrative, a bull setup, and everybody is like on board and hyped about it, those are normally like the ones that fail, you know? All right. The most entertaining outcome is the most likely, yeah? We'll see. It'll be entertaining for sure. Holy fuck, the boys be chatting. All right, I'm going to just roll through this really quickly. Any advice on how to avoid fat fingering? Don't eat and have really thin fingers. If you're a skeleton, you can't fat finger. You're welcome. I'll talk about PopCat later. High key, I don't care that much about PopCat compared to the other alts, but I will. When you're trading during high volume periods and then volume dies, is it a good idea to cut all positions? If you're trading intraday, like if you're day trading or scalping and then volatility and volume drops off, then yeah, I mean, but if I'm in a swing trade and things slow down, I'm not closing it because it's intraday slow. So always separate day trading and swing trading in your brain. If you get a chance, can you look at GLD, breakout looming? Yeah, I mean, I don't really care that much about gold, man. I'm not going to look at GLD. I'll look at the actual gold ticker itself. Like, they look good, right? I mean, gold and silver, like, silver's already breaking out. Gold looks like it's ready to break out. They look good. Honestly, like, there's not a whole lot of assets, like, big assets that don't look good right now. Okay. BTC will closely follow stocks after this cycle. Where do you see it bottoming in bear? I can't predict that shit, guys. I don't even know how high we're going to go up, right? How high we go up determines where the bottom will be. If the top is now, it means the bottom's like 70K, right? If the top is 250K, it means maybe the bottom is where we're at now or even higher than where we're at now, right? You can't, it's just, I could pull some numbers out of my ass and LARP about shit and then clout collect if I'm right, but I'd rather teach you the real lesson that there's just no point in thinking about these things. Is it stupid to long pump? We can look at pump when we get to the altcoin section. The only bullish thing about pump, from my understanding, is that it would be a hated rally. That's it, though. Whiff catch-up trade? Yeah, Whiff didn't look terrible. Wish Magus was my uncle. Can you send BTCs to 120 so I can sleep? Bro, just go to bed. You want it to go up $1,000? That's like fucking 0.3% or whatever. Just go to sleep. And when I read, can you send? And I'm thinking 150 or 180 or something like that. And bro wants $1,000 move. Not even. Bro wants a $200 move. After the institutional shenanigans, do you think Bitcoin accumulation is the way to go in the long run? After the institutionalization fully plays out on Bitcoin, Bitcoin is going to be another asset just like the S&P and the Nas. You know, it's just going to be like a no-brainer thing to have as a part of your port, whether you're rich or not. It's just going to be something that everybody owns. And owning, you know, owning a whole Bitcoin in the future will be a huge flex. Just crazy, but I mean, honestly, I guess owning a whole Bitcoin is probably a flex now, if I'm being honest. Which is sad, but it is what it is. Okay. What if the range extends like the original plan? We gotta lose 115 for that to be the case. If the range extends out and we lose, let's say we lose 115 and re-accept back into this range, I think that means that we trade probably lower. And we'll still go higher, guys. All my plans are us resolving higher. I know as a trader I'm supposed to plan for all the scenarios, but it really is hard for me to, I have plans for if we go down, but it's such a low probability in my opinion that the top is in and stuff like that. Like, I think that we're going higher. I have supreme confidence in this. Are we going to see a sweep of the lows in the Asian session, or was the Asian session enough? It could have been enough, guys. We might be able to trade up now. Kind of depends on if the S&P wants to be green or not. If the S&P can kind of dolly the sell-off that it just did in NY, then I think Bitcoin could probably break out here today or later on, shortly. What percentage of portfolio do you risk on high time frame plays? I mean, I don't have like a specific answer like that for you. You know, I basically always have. I have been risk on in some fashion ever since the bottom and at the end of 2022. So I mean, the answer is like 90%. You know, right? Like, I'm fortunate that I make pretty decent income from my trading and from some businesses and stuff, so I always have capital to just like buy more shit whenever I want. Especially from like my trading recently, like, yeah, the perp account is been going bonkers. But anyways, focus up to your question. You know, I don't think about things in that way. Nothing is scripted for me. There's a certain point where I'll like, every now and then, you know, maybe once a quarter, I'll come and kind of tally up the numbers and go, wow, like my crypto is really outsized compared to my boomer stuff. Maybe let's move some stuff over. But I don't really believe in a whole lot of rebalancing, right? If I really focused on rebalancing the way that traditional portfolio managers teach you, I would have really underperformed in crypto, because I would have always been just rebalancing my crypto out of crypto. And I'm glad I never really did that until more recent years. But yeah, I don't have concrete answers around, you know, I think that I'm a 2% risk trader, I'm a 5% risk trader, like, that's dumb, you know. Most of your trades should be really low risk, where you risk like, you know, 1%, and then every now and then you go big and you risk 15-20%, and that's my style of trading. Most of the time I risk very small amounts, and then every now and then the big setup comes and I will risk the whole account basically. But please take that advice with a grain of salt, because a lot of you guys will kill yourself doing that. You think Doge is going to go vertical? I certainly fucking hope so. We'll talk about Doge here momentarily, brother. See, Sailor's pyramid scheme? Yeah, that shit made me laugh a little bit, not going to lie. Are normies approaching you guys about crypto? I don't think so. I think that a lot of people are asleep at the wheel. You know, when I started buying up alts, you know, I don't even remember, like at the beginning of this month, and then I bought heavily at the like first week of this month, I think. And a really good example is I went and told my real life friend that I have a real life friend that I let tail me on all my trades, which is a good example. It's a good lesson, right? That I literally spoon feed my best swing trades to my friend, and he never hits on any of them. So there's like a lesson right around how hard this stuff is. You could have somebody tell you what to do and you still fuck it up. So what I'm getting at is he's not. I told him to buy like 2-3 weeks ago, and he's not bought anything yet. So there's not. I don't think that the retail FOMO or normie FOMO is really here yet. I don't know what the fuck they're doing, to be honest. They should be here by now, but yeah, I mean, I have a really small data set, but my experience is that they're not here. Trump floats free gains on property and investments? Is that real? Look, guys. I don't ask for much, but if we were gonna do a tax thing one time, just during the Trump administration, can we do can we do capital gains free so I can liquidate a bunch of shit, please? And then you can, as soon as I'm done liquidating, you can turn capital gains back on. High key, if they turn capital gains off, I would completely change that would change my life. Absolutely change my life. Because I have a lot of things I've intentionally not liquidated over the past several years for that reason. Primarily the corn. Okay, what made you decide it was no longer a dead cat bounce? Momentum. Momentum's been strong, guys, you know. Simple as that, right? The way that this range, I originally expected us to go, range low to range high type of thing. And the way that we played out, things just changed for me. The way that we were trading before the breakout was very, very surprisingly strong, right? Every time you would be like low time frame, you see the S&P pull back, and then Bitcoin just stayed up here. It didn't give a fuck. So I mean, what exactly made me make that shift? I don't really remember. I didn't really take notes on it or anything to read off to you, but every day I got a little bit more hopeful. We need Doge vertical confirmed. Breaking out during the stream, that would be sick, but probably not that likely. Normies will cause a massive spike in memes. Yeah, that's the smart thing to do. I mean, if you're not a crypto person, you should just buy memes in AFK. Can I get 100% 2024 tax rebate? Thanks, brother. let me get some tax rebates, please. I think, Doc, I think I was pretty open with you when I was doing my taxes for 2024. It took a lot from me. They took a whole fucking limb. They took my left arm from me this last year. Trump talked about taking away cap gains on selling your home. I don't care about selling on homes. I need cap gains on digital assets removed. Period. All right, my friends. So it is about time to move over to alts here in just a second. What about futures access to the masses? Feel like having more dumb people. Look. Futures access to the masses is here, right? Coinbase is offering that. They already have dated futures, and their perpetual swaps went live yesterday. They're in beta form, and it's only for Bitcoin and ETH, but it's going to get opened up to, a lot more assets, and it's going to be very tradable. The honest answer is that these things aren't necessarily a positive for people, right? It depends. If you've been trading for like 3 days, right? Like, trading derivatives is a terrible idea for you. For me, I'm mostly excited about having regulated derivatives, not because I want to make more money from it, because it's going to be the perfect de-risk. I'm looking for de-risking derivatives a lot of the time. Look, I think the days of the perp driven markets, right? It's not like if we open up perps to retail that it's just all of a sudden we're going to be a perp market. That's not going to come back. We're still going to, right? The driving force for these markets is the treasury companies, the ETF. So it's a spot market. Maybe opening up more retail traders to derivatives would affect like super low time frame, but it's not going to change anything on high time frame. Can mark my words on that one for sure. Yeah, it's only for BTC and ETH right now, but they literally went live yesterday and it's still in beta version. So give it some time. We're gonna build out the liquidity, add more tickers, etc. It's gonna be sick. 0 day. Yeah, I mean, that's what we need. We need retail traders trading more next day expiration contracts. Perps will destroy the stake and sports bet zoomers. Yeah, no, that's very, very prevalent. You guys asked me like, or you think that normies are asking about crypto. Normies are focused on sports betting. Whenever I do any family events and stuff, I'm always surprised all the younger males in my family are always about their sports betting. Which, as somebody who understands, basic expected value, it's pretty fucking stupid. But to each their own. All right, let's go ahead and lock in on some alt chat, guys. So I'm gonna run through my alts first, and then maybe we'll look at some of the ones you guys want to look at. So let's look at a little Ethereum first. So Ethereum, full disclosure, I'm not in any ETH right now. Well, I mean, I have a little bit of ETH, but like for utility purposes, I don't have legitimate ETH holdings. Haven't had legitimate ETH holdings for a long time. ETH is one of my big trades way back in the day that helped me go full time. So we'll always love ETH for that kind of early days opportunity. Okay, here's the thoughts on ETH. If you're playing ETH, it makes a lot of sense. They're clearly about to run back the same Ponzi with ETH that they did with Bitcoin. So ETH is a no-brainer between the treasury companies and the stablecoin narratives and shit like that, right? None of this shit's new. We've been saying this for a long time. I'm not going to play ETH even though the narrative makes sense to me. If you're playing ETH, kudos to you. If we look at the ETH BTC chart, this is the one thing I wanted to really talk about with ETH. This is the first time that we've had every other move, and I've clowned ETH for years. Every move you get just gets faded, 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 faded. All these are getting faded, faded. This is the first move where you had a move up and then a continuation off the back of it. Unfortunately, your structure is still very bearish on ETH. It still has the final boss of the yearly rolling. So you need to see ETH trade higher, compress, and get above the rolling and start to flip it. And we need the market structure to look like this in reciprocal. So we need it to chop upwards from this point on. Maybe there's a certain point where along this, like if we're in this part of the trend, where I will change my tune and buy up some ETH. Maybe I'll swap some SOL into ETH. Maybe I'll just swap stables and do it. I don't really know what my plan would be just yet. As of now, Solana's actually doing pretty well for me, so I'm not really super concerned with yeeting out of the bag. But that's the thoughts on ETH, right? This is the first promising move that ETH BTC's had in many years. It's a little bit too early for me to be very, very optimistic about it, though, because the trend has clearly not been flipped. I do think that how this will play out is how I drew it, though. I think that this will see some sideways, see maybe a dip, and then mean revert, and from there, that's when you're actually going to see the trend kind of flip on this thing. But that's pretty much it for that. Let's look at some Solana. I'm gonna blast through some of my coins really quickly, and we'll check chat. So Solana is a coin that I was uber bullish on in 2023, 2024. Changed my tune more recently to where it's not like my second biggest holding anymore. This was just a huge bag for me for a long time, but the days of just gross Solana outperformance are gone. I think that this is just going to be just a decent meme, a decent coin to hold, basically, right? That's the kind of synopsis on it. So structurally on high time frame, it doesn't look that great. You look at this thing on medium time frame though, or lower time frame, right? Like, this is what you want your coins to look like. Just, grinding up, shallow dip, grind up, continuation, right? So this is my main layer 1 bet. My other layer 1 bet is Hype. I know a lot of you probably look at what Hype has done recently and you're just like, Hype is dog shit, right? Like, I'm going to sell my Hype and rotate into Solana or whatever, right? But Hype just moves on its own. Hype is a very clean chart. It's clearly very strong. It has all the fundamentals lining up for it. So it's just all around a good coin to bet on. So this is the other layer 1 that I've bet on. I'm going to run through my memes next and then we'll check chat. Run through some memes. So let's start off with the king, Dogerino. So everybody, every year or every risk cycle, people always clown Doge. But Doge always does well when we go risk on. So I'm very optimistic that it's going to do something like that. I drew this doodle from here. I think it's got some consolidation in front of us before continuation. I think targeting the local highs that it made, last year is a good first target. From there, though, I do think that if it really depends, right? If Bitcoin's going to go into its next trend mode and move to 150K, I think that things like Doge are just going to trade a lot higher, right? So this is my largest meme coin holding is Doge. It's the largest, most liquid coin. It's just a no-brainer bet in my opinion. Fartcoin's next. So Fartcoin actually just made local highs last night, which is pretty sick to watch. Fartcoin, I don't actually like the chart as much as some of the other coins, but the main reason why I continue to bet on Fartcoin is because of the attention economy aspect. Clearly, there's just so much attention wrapped up around this coin all the time. So that's all I need, right? So Fartcoin's a good coin. Next, we'll do Pepe and Doge. Pepe Pepe and Doge, or Pepe is just basically the same thing as Doge in a lot of ways. It's just the frog equivalent of it. So it doesn't look, perfect on high time frame, but when you look at this thing on lower time frames, looks like a monster, right? So I'm hoping that a lot of these things are really setting up their next big wave. Finally, we'll cover Bonk. Bonk is the strongest out of the larger cap memes. It's actually has bullish structure on higher time frame in my opinion. Lower time frame looks really good as well. I mean, this thing is just absolutely ripped up. I didn't even realize it's almost up 200%. So yeah, things are looking pretty good. There's a few other coins that I may be interested in. I do like the SPX coin a lot. I think, I've been ignoring Pendle for a long time. I know someone wanted me to look at this. I think that if I was to make an RWA play, Pendle's the obvious choice. But I've chosen to consolidate my plays around Bitcoin, layer ones, and memes. And that is my synopsis for you guys. So we'll pause. We'll check chat here in a second. All right. Of course, there's ways to have, there's ways to have edge in sports betting, but your average 22-year-old that watches sports and then bets on them is not going to have an edge. I really wonder what that mania will look like. I been pondering that as well. I think if we get another momentum spark on Bitcoin, that will actually take us into mania stage, in my opinion. All right, what else we got? What exchange was I looking at? That was on Binance Perps for that guy that fucked up. First time since 106K that I have a bad gut feeling. Okay. Yeah, but most are not doing that, like you said, right? Most are gonna be just gambling. ENS. Yeah, I'm not gonna just become a ticker bot for you guys right now, just so you know. So I will look at a few of them. I don't think it's the worst looking chart, but there's no reason for me to want to bet on the token for Ethereum domains, right? Is the moment the thread guy stuff calms down, no one's gonna give a fuck about the stuff again. I mean, I guess as long as ETH stays hot, but honestly, people have cooked their fucking brains on CT thinking they're beta chasers. Don't chase ETH beta, guys. If you want to play ETH, just buy ETH. Trust me. My friend is a top buy signal, 100%. Can you take a look at XRP? And no problem. XRP doesn't look terrible. I kind of like this coin. I don't own any of it, but it was one that I considered buying. Pretty great breakout the way it was able to pull a Bitcoin, right? It's consolidating above. I think it looks good. Yeah, I don't have anything negative to say on Ripple. I don't own any. I'm not trying to chase every rabbit that exists, but it's a decent looking coin for sure. WIF been strong. Yeah, we can look at WIF. I mean, yeah, high time frame, it's one of the weakest out of the large cap memes. That's why I've ignored it. But it will probably do fine, right? I mean, the aggregate of alts is just going to go up as Bitcoin does. Somebody was asking about what's the other fucking popcat? Yeah, I mean, it just, you know, you look at this and it's like, it will probably go up and you can probably make money off this, but I'm not going to pick this over the other coins. Like, Popcat doesn't have any attention and the chart looks worse, so I'm happy with the ones that I picked, most definitely. Pengu? Yeah, Pengu's been a monster recently. I've missed this one, but Charlie has hit on this one, so definitely like seeing my boys hit on these trades. Yeah, it's, you know, I don't know what to say about this one, right? Very, very strong coin. It's got good fundamentals. They're making a game and all sorts of bullshit. I'll just be sideline Sally on this one because I'm not going to chase every bag in front of me. But if you're on Team Pengu, right, if you're riding this bag, you're in a very comfortable position right now. So it's a good coin for sure. Maker, yeah, Maker is on my list as well as a decent coin. You know, if I was to play a DeFi coin, I'd rather pick Aave over Maker probably, but Maker looks okay. Definitely doesn't look like a terrible coin, but again, I'm not trying to spread myself too thin. That's why I don't own this or own any DeFi plays. I think that, you know, a little bit late for me to be saying this, but it's not a new kind of thing that I would have been expressing, right? Like, I don't think that there's a whole lot of sense in just trying to be smart with the alts, just buy memes. Like, buy the large cap memes and chill. It's just such a good strategy. ENA, yeah, we can look at that. I don't really care much for this coin. Yeah, so I mean, it's just like high time frame, very, very weak coin. I think that, you know, it's had a monster move recently, so, you know, congrats if anybody traded this or anything, but, you know, it's just not, you look at this compared to a lot of the other coins, right? You know, you look at like Fart Coin, right? Like this Fart Coin literally looks like the reciprocal of that, right? Ticker bot. What has my life become? Mark the top with my streams. What are you talking about, bro? I started my stream like over here. We're like at the same fucking price. You think Trump coin ever comes back? Probably not. Probably not. Floki. All right, so I am going to stop looking at alts here pretty soon. Because I just don't want to look at alts. It's not the word, you know, same kind of thing I was just said about all the other coins, right? It's not terrible looking. I think that it's pretty bullish that it's conquering its rolling yearly. I think that, you know, I know that this foundation pays a bunch of, you know, pays influencers to promote them and stuff. So I'm sure this token will do well, right? They'll spend their treasury to promote it and it will go up, I'm sure. What does your gut say? Massive dip in Q3 and returning Q4, or just continuation all year? If I had to pick between those two, I would say continuation this year, because all the midwits and people that think they're smart want to buy the dip, and all the retards just want it to go up. So if I'm going to pick between dummies and smarties, right, for who's going to win, I'm going to pick the dummies. So just off that logic alone, you know, the breakout has already started. So if we're going to see trend continuation, it should be from here. I want to get some meme coin that's not already went to the moon. Well, you got to be early, man. You guys got to be ready to buy these things when it's scary. It's as simple as that, right? When I was first buying, you know, I called this all in the Paragon, and I even added everybody when I first bought, and I added everybody again when I compounded my meme buys and stuff, right? You know, I'm buying Doge at 17 cents and stuff when it's 16, 17 cents when it's not obvious and when it's scary. So there you go. Got to put your balls on the line if you want to be early to stuff. My friend's wife will divorce him if he doesn't do a 3x. If Rose is 3x, that's nice. Yeah, honestly, I'm pretty sure Rose is probably going to go to 0. I don't even really need to pull that chart up to know that it probably looks like ass. There you go. Sorry, brother. You might as well start drafting the divorce papers now. Make sure the prenup is ready to go. Aptos. Yeah, hopefully Aptos will do well for you guys. I'm not positioned in it or anything. I'll always like Aptos for the Q1 2023 trade. This thing was a monster opportunity. Very, very appreciative for this. This sparked alt season in the first Q of 2023. This was spicy, so I always love Aptos. Yeah, maybe I can do another one of these scams. I would expect it to not go as high as the previous ones, right? So maybe say half of this. So probably, right, this is the top on whiff or whatever this coin is. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream here very soon because I got to move on with my day. I got a lot of stuff to do. I got I wouldn't say the best feedback, but I got decent feedback about the flow video I made last week. Can definitely expect to see more of that stuff coming. And, you know, we paid close attention to the feedback we got around some of the couple changes, slowing down the speaking, fixing the volume and stuff. So the next videos are going to be really good. I actually just sent a bunch of the clips for the next video to Lear. So, yeah, the next video is well underway. I actually am working on 2 videos. I'm working on a trading view order flow and a volume profile video. So both of those will be coming your way. Yeah, also, you know, I'm just going to shill out. I'm shilling all the products right now. We started the cookbook team. We added Trader Mercury on officially today. Very excited about that. The cookbook team is going to be putting out the newsletter every Monday, every week until crypto goes to 0. So you're going to want to subscribe to that. And yeah, final pieces, if you want to expedite your learning curve, consider joining the Paragon group. So if you sat through the whole hour long, then you get the shills at the very end. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Shout out to Coinbase for sponsoring my content. It's really, honestly, just kind of proud to be sponsored by such a legitimate brand these days. So I feel like it's a badge of honor, and I'm proud of it. So thanks everybody. Let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, cheers guys.